For the past year, I'd been hearing all the hype surrounding Labubu dolls. Everywhere I went and every video I saw, it seemed like everybody had one. Initially, I didn't quite understand what was so appealing about these creepy-looking rabbit things with gigantic overbites. Though, once I looked into it, I found a whole entire Labu lore. On a basic level, there were the little keychain Labu, simple common Labus, and of course, the cheap knockoffs. But it went way deeper than that. People could customize and buy clothes for their Labus, like outfits, accessories, as well as tiny little shoes. I even saw one person on Etsy selling Labus with face tattoos. The only problem was that a lot of the Labubu dolls were really expensive. The cheap ones didn't really feel special enough to be a birthday gift to myself, but the higher-end ones were hundreds of dollars, and super rare collectors' Labus were going for thousands. I knew I wanted one, but I was too broke to get one. However, my friends had been listening to me raving about Labus in the past weeks leading up to my birthday. So they pulled together some money and got me a really nice, expensive one. They wouldn't tell me exactly how much it cost, but I knew it was up there. I was so excited to finally have a Labubu doll, I hung it up in my rearview mirror. That way, I would see it whenever I went anywhere. Unfortunately, ever since I put that Labubu doll in my car, weird started happening to me. The first thing I noticed was how many people were staring into my car as I drove by. I chalked it up to them all being envious of my rare Labubu, but all kinds of people were giving me the death glare. That wasn't all either. I considered myself a safe and somewhat lucky driver, but whenever I was on the highway, people kept drifting into my lane, forcing me to slam on the brakes or dangerously swerve out of the way. It got so bad that I became too paranoid to go anywhere except the places I absolutely had to. Of course, I still had to drive to work, and it was a harrowing experience every time because I felt like I was dodging death every single mile. One day, I got to work and felt a great deal of paranoia. I had been living in that state of panic for weeks ever since I got the Labubu. At the end of my shift, I stepped outside to walk toward my car when I suddenly felt horribly ill. The thought of getting back into a vehicle with that thing made me sick to my stomach. I didn't have a choice, though. I was clocked out, and all I wanted to do was get home as soon as possible. That thing was staring at me as soon as I got in my car. I wanted to throw it out when I got home, and I think somehow it could sense that as I drove. I couldn't stop thinking about it, seeing it out of the corner of my eye. Never blinking, just smiling at me with those unnatural teeth. Forget being drowsy or texting while driving. The Labubu was the most distracting thing I ever had to deal with while driving. The only way I could deal with my frustration was to talk to it. "What are you looking at, you little..." "Stop trying to ruin my life. Just look away." "Damn it. You're not going to convince me to keep you. When we get home, you're going in the trash. The outside one. You got that?" "Hey, what the hell? How are you doing that with your face?" Without warning, the lobule started moving on its own. It was rocking back and forth like crazy. I kept trying to hold it in place with one hand to keep it out of my face, but it was fighting me. I started to panic, almost losing control of my car. I was in the far left lane, speeding to get home, so there was nowhere for me to pull over. I nearly crashed trying to do it, but I made my way over to the right lane and took the first exit. With the Labubu still thrashing under my mirror, I stopped and lifted off. Then I opened the window and threw it outside. "There. Now stay gone, you little..." I was so distracted that I didn't realize I had stopped in the middle of an intersection. When I saw those lights about to hit me, my life flashed before my eyes. I thought I was dead. And all because of a damn Labubu doll. Luckily, I survived. But I woke up in the hospital with just about every bone in my body broken, and the doctors telling me I'd been in a coma for weeks. They said it was a miracle I even made it. While I was recovering, I was stuck watching a lot of videos on TikTok. That's when I saw a video that made everything come flooding back. It was a video someone had taken of my car in broad daylight, only I wasn't in it. It was parked outside my apartment, and you could clearly see inside through the windows was my Labubu doll hanging from the rear-view mirror, swaying back and forth with nobody touching it. Most people in the comments were saying it was fake, some kind of trick or AI-generated garbage, but I know it's real. I saw it happen with my own eyes, and it nearly killed me. Labubu dolls have recently taken the world by storm, with everyone wanting to own one. There are these plush toys that look like elves with exaggerated facial expressions, of which the central figure is Labubu, a monster with sharp teeth, large ears, and a scruffy appearance. However, many have their conspiracies behind the dolls and claim that they are linked to demonic entities, like in a viral TikTok video posted by a user filming a parked car from a distance. In the footage, a Labubu doll can be seen hanging on a rear-view mirror of a vehicle like how an air freshener would. However, it seems to move alone, swinging rapidly. What makes the clip eerie was how the user claims no one was in the car, which can be seen in the video. The video has since been posted on TikTok with the caption, "I've been saying Luos are evil." It's difficult to fully know if the video is legit or not, but it's nonetheless unsettling as hell. When I was younger, I always used to collect plushies and soft little dolls, and as I got older, I still carry those same traits. Since I live alone, I like to decorate them around my apartment to populate the space. That way, I don't feel so lonely. Naturally, when the Labubu craze came around, I fell victim to the hype. I went down the rabbit hole and saw so many Labubu videos that I was learning the lore behind all the different members of the Labubu tribe. I did hear some rumors about them as well, but I've never believed in any of that. To be honest, though, I felt kind of obligated to get a Labubu more than I actually wanted to have one. I didn't want to miss out, and I figured they might grow on me. So I ended up getting one. Unfortunately, as soon as I unboxed my Labubu, something didn't feel right. It might sound weird, but I ascribed my dolls and plushies vibes and feelings. Whatever it was, I couldn't see. The new Labubu was making them very uncomfortable, like they didn't want to be around her. To make everyone happy, I put everybody but Labubu and my chiller plushie in the living room. Then the rest stayed in my bedroom. I thought that sometimes dolls can be like cats and need time to acclimate to each other. So I hoped things would resolve themselves after a few days. Of course, I wouldn't bother saying anything of this if that were the truth. No matter how I arranged everybody, there was an undeniable tension. It wasn't just them feeling it anymore either. It was affecting me too. I lost sleep and had this nagging feeling that I wasn't the only person in my apartment. I worried if I told my friends what was happening, that they would think I was making it all up, so I kept it to myself. But things only got worse. For the first time in my life, I started hearing things like things I knew couldn't be real, but felt real nonetheless. I'd be in bed and hear things falling in the kitchen only to get up and find nothing out of place. Sometimes, while relaxing on the couch, my bedroom would make a noise. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was like someone was walking around in there, depressing the floorboards, quietly messing with my sheets. Every time I checked, there was nothing. Nobody beyond that if I didn't already think I was going crazy. Lubu seemingly started to move around on her own. Now I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the best with keeping track of things. But my dolls are a bit more than things to me, almost like pets or even friends. So I tend to have a good memory of where I last put them. Labu, however, was elusive. I could have sworn I finally let her sit on my bed, only for her to randomly show up on the coffee table later the same day. I tried locking her up in the kitchen cabinet just for her to escape and surprise me on the floor. It was maddening, and nothing seemed to make it stop. One night, things got out of control. After tossing and turning for hours trying to fall asleep, I was just getting there when I suddenly shot awake. Something had pulled me out of sleep like my life depended on it. And then my eyes started to work again, only to see what was in front of me. Despite the fact I live alone, there was a large, dark shadow looming over my bed. 911, what's your emergency? Hello, police. There's someone in my bedroom. I don't know who, but you know me. What? Who are you? Who's there? What do you do here? Get out. You brought me here. Don't you want to be bastards? No. Go away. You're real. This is a nightmare. You think this is a nightmare? Just leave me alone. I went into Lubu's mouth. Then I suddenly woke up. I was sweating bricks. I knew it was real this time because my body was covered in scratches and bruises. Everything hurt. That's when I found Labu hanging around and threw her in the trash. I tied the back up, then took it out to the dumpster. Ever since then, I've been free of the booze curse, though not without frequent reminders. The fact that they are demonic is some sort of meme now. But from what I experienced, it's absolutely true. Of course, whenever I tell my story, everyone thinks I'm making it up. To all those people who don't believe me, I wish they'd get a little doll of their own and see what happens. This story was inspired by a series of eerie TikToks of people claiming to experience cuts or bruises after owning a Labubu doll. Some claim to even hear their Labubu whispering at night. After digging deeper down the Labubu lore, there have been dozens of videos alluding that Labubus have an uncanny resemblance to Pazuzu, a notorious demon from Mesopotamian myth. Historically, he's been associated with storms and drought, but ironically symbolizes protection amidst chaos. Nevertheless, TikTok began to swirl with tales of Labubu hauntings. One story which emerged is that the stuffing used to make the first batch of Labubu dolls was housed in the same warehouse in Iraq, used to store archaeological artifacts, such as Pazuzu idols. The story goes that dust from a shattered idol ended up in the burlap sack that contained the Labubu stuffing. At the end of it all, these are really just superstitions, and we don't know for certain if the injuries people claim to have are Labubu related. It might be too soon for me to talk about this, even anonymously, but I need to get it off my chest. Recently I was hanging with a few buddies of mine. The three of them aren't the best people, and they've definitely been a bad influence throughout my life. That evening, we talked about a ton of different things, but there was one topic I never expected the guys to even think about. Dolls. Not just any dolls, but the Leo dolls that have been recently going viral. And nothing about them mattered to us except for the fact that people wanted them. And because there was so much demand, prices were high. Eventually, the guy started coming up with a scheme and wanted to sell Labubus while they were still hot. I should have known where they were going with it, but I stupidly name-dropped a place I knew had a ton of Labubu, a local collector store called One Top. I was just trying to suggest that they could work there, maybe get commission for selling them. But my friends had another idea. All at once, they turned to me with an evil look in their eyes and wanted to rob and steal their stock of Labubu dolls and sell them on the street. They would be loaded by the end of the week if they could pull it off. As soon as I realized what they were really talking about, I tried to back out. I didn't want anything to do with it, but by then it was already too late. Guys, I don't want to rob anybody. That's like a family-owned business, man. Look, it's happening. There's no backing out. You're either in or we're jumping you. What? Are you in or not? I'm sure you're used to hearing that from every girl you slept with. Sure, I'm in. It was either I helped them rob the store or let all three of them kick my ass right to the ICU. So, I chose option A. That same night, we put the plan together. We already had the tools we needed: gloves, masks, crowbars, and bags. It even just so happened that one of my friends had stolen a pickup truck a few days ago. He kept it in his garage, which would make the perfect getaway vehicle. Since he'd already taken care of that, he'd stay outside and make the getaway while the rest of us went in. By the time everything was set to go, we stayed at my friend's house until it got late. When night fell, we transferred over to the getaway driver's spot, then piled into the stolen truck and made our way to one stop. When we got there, we put on our masks, made sure our sleeves were down and our hoods were up. As soon as the truck stopped, the three of us got out and ran to the door. Within seconds, we broke the padlock and pried the door out. And just like that, we were in. We all started grabbing all the Labubus that we could. We smashed open the cases and went behind the counter for the most expensive ones and completely cleared the shelves. Suddenly, it was over. There weren't any Labubus left to grab, and we were carrying as much as we could possibly hold. A distant siren caught my attention right as we were leaving. I couldn't know for certain if they were coming for us, but I was pretty damn sure that they were. We loaded up the truck and piled in. Then the getaway driver got us the hell out of there. Once we were off the block, we took our masks off to avoid looking suspicious. And I swear, literally seconds later, the first cops went speeding by us right back to one stop. If we'd stayed there just a minute longer, it would have been over. Still, we weren't home free until we were back in the garage. And of course, that had to be one of the nights that we stopped at a red light and a cop pulled up right next to us. We were all ourselves there for about 30 seconds. But thankfully, when the light turned green, he went the other way and drove off. Back at the house, we celebrated when we knew the coast was finally clear. I felt more relieved than I ever had in my life, and everyone was thrilled with the amount of Labubu we were able to snatch. We couldn't even imagine how much money we were going to make off them. However, the very next day, the anxiety came back in full force. What we'd done had already broken the local news, and it was starting to go viral. They had crystal clear video of us robbing the store, but we hadn't been identified yet. We had been careful enough to avoid that. Despite all of us trying to stay low-key, the getaway driver got spooked and dumped the truck. The cops ended up finding it, which led them to our friend's house where we had stashed all the Labubus. Someone in the neighborhood must have seen us unloading stuff and got suspicious even though we kept everything covered. In the end, all the Labubu got seized and given back to one stop, and my friend got arrested, so it was all for nothing. Myself and the other two guys are still laying low, but I'm constantly scared the one who didn't get away is going to snitch. If he does, we're all getting caught too. This story was inspired by a viral Labubu robbery that was caught on camera. Police are investigating a warehouse robbery where thousands of dollars worth of Labubu. When serving a search warrant to a resident in nearby Upland, the detectives recovered 14 boxes of Labubus valued at around $30,000. Evidence shows that the stolen Labubus located in Southern California were being prepared for resale. According to the police department, the Labubus have since been returned to their rightful owners. The Labubus were stolen from a warehouse over several days. According to police, during the investigation, when police served the search warrant, a suspect attempted to flee the scene, but surrendered. Police did not identify the suspects in their press release. The recovery came after another location. One Stop Sales, a store in La Pointe, California, shared footage of thieves stealing around $7,000 worth of Labubu from the store. The vehicle used in the crime was a stolen Toyota Tacoma, which was recovered shortly afterward. Heat.